last show that I worked on, which was actually well, it was the second one I was really involved with, stereoscopic 3D. Using that as a storytelling device was very, very big in the director's eyes, and to try to get it to work from a storytelling standpoint, what we did, we would try to push the depth of the stereo. Obviously without making anyone sick, but at the same time, the intensity of the stereo effects based on certain points in a story will give an impact to a viewer, more often than one without stereo. Keeping things subtle throughout the film so that it has a good impact is one of the key things to do. And using wow, I'm trying to think of a good example. It's kind of hard to because I can't. But from a standpoint of actually using it, it's basically just keeping the viewer entertained without distracting them from going too far in depth with something too far in the window, or having something come too far at you. When that happens, it's disorienting. Having film made that's, Avatar, which we did, was very safe. Everything in Avatar was within the window. It was pushed in. So when you're viewing the whole movie, it's a very relaxing experience. You're not having anything forced out of the screen at you. The other one I was working on is a little bit more risky. It was, it's like, let's see how far we can push it. And we prevised all of our stuff at full, theater res, and we tested our sequence in Previs. We viewed it to make sure that, none of us were going to get sick or nauseous, or we could handle it. And it worked. It worked great. And that we have yet to see in theaters, but we'll see what the mass populace says when that happens. There's a lot of rules that go into using stereoscopic 3D when making movies. A lot of times, you can't have things coming out you out of the edge of screen, because when you have that happen a lot, it just really shutters your vision, and it throws you off from what's trying to be told in the story. So a lot of techniques that are being used, things coming above frame or below frame. Those are kind of the things that help a viewer get through a sequence without being distracted. There's new technologies as well, which is like blending the stereo out of the frames in 3D. So when an effect comes to left or right, as long as you have that blending effect on the side, it exits frame more eloquent, so you're not getting so jarred when you see something like that. Getting into the postvis world after you have things shot, then we get into okay, well, we have to put backgrounds in that are actually going to work in stereo, and maybe something is going to fly through frame. So we have to then get all the stereo settings that were done on whichever camera was shot. Sometimes we're tracking in 3D both eyes at the same time, so we get the perfect effect of track on each side, and then we put our elements in which match what those two cameras are doing blended back together. So it's almost like putting a puzzle piece back together to get it to work sometimes. From a creative standpoint, without going so technical, which is luckily from a post-vis standpoint, we're getting more of an idea across rather than something as technical as a final. We're a little bit more free to have, okay, well, it didn't blend so perfect here, but at the same time, you get the idea, and post-vis is a fast thing. You can't sit on one shot for 2 or 3 days. You gotta have it done in like 2 or 3 hours sometimes, and so getting that done on speed, it's a sacrifice what you have to do to get it finished. I think a lot of the tools and a lot of the software that's come out now, Maya has tons of crazy cool fluid effects that you can do within the viewport. You've got Motion Builder, which we did post-vis with Motion Builder on Avatar, which its rendering engine's beautiful, and that's you're starting to see that more in Maya now. In Maya 2012, the Viewport 2.0, which has this really gorgeous viewing engine with depth of field, we don't have to render if the director wants depth of field now, and so that sort of advance helps in the aid of storytelling. It really pushes what the director wants to see without having to spend the time rendering it or putting it through a very arduous process to make it happen. Some of the lessons I've learned in some of my recent projects were to hurry up and go faster. Don't kill the actor with a giant robot, which a lot of times we do a lot of motion control. Motion control on some commercials we do. We have a huge rig where it's a Milo, and it has a camera that's driven from the actual previs data that we may animate inside of the computer. Once we have that and we get that data to a Milo control operator, he's got this huge crazy robotic arm that's gonna go right next to the actor's face. So you want to make sure that camera move is right and you don't kill the actor when you do that. So we've run into that a few times. Haven't killed the actor, but it came close. I think the evolution of where I started in Previs and where I'm at now and what I've learned and what I've progressed through is the ability to build assets, especially when you're building an asset for Previs, you want to keep in mind the final product that maybe the final visual effects vendor will use in the end. So you don't want to have people building the same thing 3 times over and over again. So, starting off, being able to talk to the art department or saying, hey, do you guys have a CAD drawing maybe we could start off with that we could work from? Being a step ahead and not just saying, well, you know what, this looks cool, let's just make this without having any thought into it. And that was kind of an early fumble for me because creative versus what can actually be done is a big deal. Speed of creating things. In Previs, you have to create fast because you're making stuff you're going to shoot the next day, either virtually or inside the computer, because you got to have shots done. When I first started, it was like, wow, I just want to spend like 2 days on this model because, wait, I can light it and I want to render it, but you can't light it, you can't render it. It's got to be done tomorrow. So, picking up speed and making sure it's done fast and it works with everyone is, it's key to making things happen. On any show that I start on, it's within my first instinct to find anybody that I'm going to be working with, especially the art directors, who's going to be lighting, the DP, producers, anyone, and get them involved with what we're doing up front. I think, friend definitely, because we're there ultimately to help everybody out and make the movie the best it can possibly be. So reaching out to try to get the information from them to integrate into what we're doing is, that's really important to us. And there's no ignoring anyone. We're not definitely trying to be prima donnas. We love to integrate everyone's master of their craft in what we're doing.